Hey everybody, it's Dave, Blue Jacket 66, here for another video. I'm going to talk a little bit as a non-expert about proof cards, sports cards, baseball cards, football cards. And what got me thinking about it was one of my last videos I showed off some of my top 20 favorite cards at that time. And one of them was the 1969 Top Super Mickey Mantle proof. And I guess we're going to talk a little bit about what does that mean. And again, that's me probably raising more questions because I don't have any definitive answers. But I like to collect food and beverage cards, regional cards. I'm a pre-war collector, and I'm especially interested as far as post-war in not only the regional issues, but I love test issues, and I look for things that are relatively uncommon. I think some of these proof cards fit into that. So first of all, figure out what a proof is. I know in coin collecting, proof coins have a very mirrored surface, and clearly the die on it is really buff down, and so when they strike with that planchet, or the planchet, instead of having a business kind of matte finish, they're bright and mirror-like. That's what a proof is in coins. I first heard about what is a proof was artist proof when my parents, my dad, everybody's collectors, so did art at some time, lithographs, Thomas Hart Benton specifically. And when I got into my mid-20s, I started collecting Salvador Dali. And all of their lithographs, for the most part, would have a signature at the bottom and a number signifying what number out of the series of number of lithographs they did. And sometimes the number of lithographs they did for a particular picture was quite, low. They could be as low as 10, 20, 200, sometimes up into the hundreds. But on occasion, you'd see down at the bottom, for instance, on the Salvador Dali, it would say EA, and that means it's an artist proof. They could also use AP for artist proof, and sometimes HC. There may be others. I'm not an expert on it. But I always kind of would rather have had a numbered lithograph rather than an artist proof. But in reality, I think that sometimes the artist proofs were pulled and made it a far lesser number than the actual print series. And what artist proofs are really pre-production prints made by the artists to make sure that the quality of the ink, the registration, the paper was great. They wouldn't just, and a lot of times lithographers or the artists were their own lithographers, and they would pull these and make these prints. They're lithographs, they're not photography prints, by themselves. And the process used to be either, I think, on copper plates or stone. Let's say an artist did this wonderful oil painting, but the lithographs were not photographs of that. They would start over on stone and do the entire picture again on stone, and actually have many different stones or copper plates. And I guess think about it as seeing the silkscreen process, where you run your ink, then you get a different screen, and you run your ink down, and they're kind of layered on. That's a poor man's very poor way of describing what lithography is in the art world. So the artist would be making these lithographs himself, and the artist proofs were ones that he would pull and look at in various stages, primarily the finish stage, to make sure it met up with his quality, because he wasn't going to be put out a series of lithographs of his famous painting that had flaws. So those ones that he pulled by himself before they went into production to make sure he was satisfied with the way the final product was going to look, at the bottom it would say artist proof. And it ends up in sports cards going way back, and the printing processes have changed over the years, clearly. But there's the same type of process, and I suppose there's still the same process today. But essentially, the inks would be cyano, black, yellow, Magnata were the colors, and they would do these on the cards in sequence, and there would be a mixture of all those colors as well to come up with your print. So we see release, sometimes you can find proofs that are clearly the printers pulling off and examining sheets during parts of these stages to make sure that everything is right with the color and the clarity and the registration and the centering and whatnot. And we see mistakes where they didn't clearly care about the quality with, for instance, the 49 leaf. And, earlier cards had some significant registration problems and color problems. Here's an example of a T206 card and its printer's error. Now, this is not a proof. Clearly, there's just an error in that card. And so those were essentially called scrap, and those were thrown in the trash can. And they made them way into our collections, is that at some point, sometimes people would bring them home to their kids, or somebody would pull them out of the trash cans, and they made their way into circulation. But these are scrap, and clearly not printer's proofs where they're pulling off to look at this sheet to make sure everything's looking okay. Here's an example of a Christy Mathewson that is truly, his T206 white cap, that is truly a proof. This was cut from a sheet, but you can obviously see the pre-production, the printer's lines, etc. I believe that this is blank back. And that was sold at a Leon Lucky's Heritage auction. I don't know how many years ago. It's been 10 years ago or so. But anyway, so that's what proofs are. And I'm finding an interest in proofs primarily in cards that I collected. Now, when I was young, some of the first packs that I opened was the 1960, 69, 70. But I really loved the 1970 Top Super. And I have an example of that out of my collection here. And it's really, I got this when I was 8 years old out of a pack. This is the 1970 Super. They also made 71, really a thick card. And these test issues were the 69 Top Super, which were quite a bit smaller. And this is the regular issue. And here is the proof. The regular issue has back, and this is pre-production, and there's only two of these. It's significantly smaller. I know you can't see, but the one that has truly been cut is significantly smaller, and the width is different. So I've kind of had an interest. I got that Mandel, and I got a few other Top Supers that I want to show. Now, the Top Super 1969 was really a test issue. I don't know a lot about it, but it was released in a very limited market. Now, we do know that it was released because there are packs out there, and I found a picture of a box. So they were released not as an insert but as by themselves. But it sounds like on a very, very limited printing. So these top supers are not impossible to find. I mean, you can find them, but they're in significantly less quantities, I think, than obviously the regular Topps issues. But it's my understanding that there was storage of these cards in a warehouse, and there was a warehouse fire, and a majority of them burned away, and that's why there wasn't a big release, and the distribution kind of ended. And that's the I got a few other Top Supers to show. Here's the 69. Since I know these aren't proofs, but we're just talking about the six. That's the Jackson. Here's the Mays and Clemente, and those are all I have, along with the mantle. And really desirable cards. I really love those cards. Now, as far as other proofs, I just show you a few examples. Here's a Hostess 1976 Hostess panel. And what's interesting, and it's got Brett on it. What's interesting about it is that is not the image that was released in 76 Hostess. So that's kind of a proof panel that never even got released, which I find is highly interesting. Here's a proof panel of the 64 Topps stand-ups. It's a really terrible picture, but man, if you look at that, it's got the production people's writing on it and who they are and circling and this, there. It's clearly a big pre-production proof, and I find it very interesting. Now, the first glossies that I collected, when I was a kid, I never saw 69 Top Super. It wasn't a thing. However, what was a thing was, and this is my another childhood set, was the 1970 Top Super Glossy Football. Now, these were inserted in second series of 1970 Topps regular issue. And I really was excited when I got these in my packs of cards. Much like, this is my childhood set of my 1970 Top Super that were quite a bit bigger. But so the 70 Top Super Glossy Football is really, I think, you can get that entire set for just a few $100, and I think it's fantastic. So I'm not sure. I think that there's a question about some of these proofs about whether or not they're truly pulled off during production to look at, versus they were in partway through production and just someone took someone home. For instance, the 1970 Top Super and 71, especially the football, you can look on eBay. You can find sheets of those all the time, and they call them proofs. They don't have the back on them. But I'm not sure if they were just stolen or are they proofs because they're kind of mid-production. I suppose that they are. And you can find them individually sheet cut. So I think for the most part, proof cards, if they're truly proof cards, are really desirable because there's not going to be a ton of them out there. Like this mantle, I said there's just a couple. I'm going to show you a couple more. I don't have tons of proof cards. I do have some test issue proofs, some proofs of some disc and whatnot, but I want to show you a couple more that I have here. So here is, let me find that. So here's that Namath. This is a 1970 Top Super Glossy. And again, these came in Series 2 of the 1970 Topps Football. And here is the proof of that card. Notice it's square corner. I'll hold this one up here to show the size difference. As you can see, it's significantly, the proof is significantly bigger because it hasn't been cut. So it's got the same back, and I can look at it and I can see it's got the same thickness. So where this is in production is essentially it is uncut. That's where it is in the production line. Unlike the mantle, here's the regular and here's the back. Now the mantle, there's no writing on the back. So it is uncut and they haven't finished the back yet. So I love those 70 top super glossy. So what else do we got here? Here is, let me show you, here's my 70 tops super maze, which I love that. I have this set or two of these, but I really wanted that maze graded. It looks nice. Here is, out of my collection, I've showed it again, 70 tops Aaron, and here is the proof. No back. So I'm going to put it up too so you can just see the cut difference. You can see significant on the top, and this is how much is on the side. I line these up. So this is pre-cutting, and the backs, there's not a back. Now, I'm looking at this through here, and it is a thin card. This is a really thick card, really thick. I mean, it's thick cardboard. So I started looking at this proof, thinking where this is in the process, because it doesn't have a back on it. Did they print on it or what'd they do? And I noticed that you can't see on here, but this is really, really a thin card as compared to this. So I looked at this under a loop. I'll show a picture here. It appears to me that the front and the back may have been actually glued together. I don't know if that's true, but it looks to me like there's a little line there. And that's the only way that I can really explain that this is such a thick card and this is a tiny thin card, is that perhaps the front and the back were printed differently and they were glued together. I don't know. Let me see here. I do not have a top super Hank Aaron. I need to get one. However, I do have the proof. And this is very rare, like the mantle. So this is a 1969 top super Aaron. Now the thickness of these cards appears to me to be similar to the regular top super when I hold them up together. So I don't know if this is just the only thing that's missing is the back, the printing on the back. So here's my 69 tops supers proofs, which I think are seriously cool. Now, you know, the 69 tops is Reggie Jackson's rookie season. Here's his top super. So I know who owns the 69 top super proof, which I think there's just one. I contacted him and he essentially said that he was going to the grave with it. So I guess I'm not going to be getting that. The other thing is when I showed this this proof of this 69 super mantle, Jim Creamer reached out to me and asked me, he says, is the gloss, is it as glossy as the final issue? And I told him it wasn't. But now that I just kind of got them out and started staring at them together, in reality, and I kind of mirror it up and down, the gloss is the same. I tried to read, how do you get a glossy card? And for most of the things that I read said, you don't put a glossy image on cardboard. Whatever the cardboard that you're using, that is what has the gloss on it. And you put the image on that, you get a glossy looking image. I don't know if that's true or not. Certainly glossy paint, you can paint on just flat drywall and it's a glossy finish. So I have no idea how these are made. But I find them interesting. I kind of just wanted to show off my Topps Supers. I'm a big fan of it. I don't know if I showed that. Here's my, again, this is a childhood set. But these are so cool. They're not expensive. I pulled them from packs when I was a kid. I think they were $2 for $10, and with gum in between. And it was a huge thrill to see who you're getting. Now, when I opened packs when I was a kid, by a kid I mean 7, 8, 9, it was good to get superstars, you know, because I watched Clemente play, and I watched Mays play, and I watched Aaron play, and it was cool to get those cards. But really what was cool was to get a Kansas City Royal player as far as baseball. Of course, they didn't come around, you know, they were 69, so they were brand new to the city. I was hugely hyped up on them. And on the football, the Chiefs. So to be honest with you, wanted a home team player was a bigger thrill than getting some of these legends, at least to a 8-year-old. So I don't know. I wanted to show off these two Aarons. Here's the two proofs. It's the 69 Super and the 1970 Top Super. This one is more exciting to me because Top Supers are so interesting in themselves, and to have a proof that there's just a handful is really cool. However, really neat Aaron, the printer's proof of that, whatever printer's proof are. So that's it. Wanted to make the video. Top Supers, 69 baseball, then they had 70, 71 baseball, and then the football, they had the 70 Top Super Glossy, and they had the regular 70 and 71 larger issues as well. I don't see a lot of people buying these in their collection, and I don't get it. I mean, they are I know big cards are clumsy. I know they're clumsy, but these are just relatively inexpensive, great looking cards, especially the Top Super. I kind of really highly recommend the 69 Top Super. Scarce, cool story behind it, and really cool. But I wanted to show you my proofs of those, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks, and have a good time at Strongsville. I won't be there. I certainly planned on it up until a few months ago when got something going on that weekend. Maybe just as well. I've got a couple things coming up. I have my 1949 Bowman Master Set, which is one of the prides of my collection, but all things must pass, right? So that is going up for auction in the April catalog REA that starts, I think, the 11th through the 25th or so. Some of the stars are broken out of that, maybe 7 or 8. You know, the Jackie and the Page and the Dobie, the high-grade stuff that are really nice. And then the rest of the set is being auctioned as a partial set. and it's really nice. So why am I doing that? Well, it's been sitting in my safe for fucking 30 years. So that's enough's enough. Let's move on. Hopefully we'll use some of those proceeds to buy something nice in REA. I've had my time with it. I still have a beautiful page and a PSA 7. I still got a really nice Jackie. So I have some of the other cards I still have, but sets are fun to build, and then they're fun to have, and then they kind of sit on the shelf. And I've had it for a long time. It's just kind of time to move on to that. So I'm excited about that. I think I'm going to be on the live stream with John, 3D80s Kid, on the night of that auction, probably with Petty as well. And I have some kind of an upcoming thing with another YouTuber. I'll let him announce. I don't really do live stuff, and I don't get on a lot of other people's videos, but I'm going to do a couple of those. But I am going to miss Strongsville, and I hope you guys, I hope you have a great time, which I know you will, and I hope you have great camaraderie with all your friends. And I hope you don't buy a card just to buy a card because all your friends are around and you got to buy something to show it off. Get a card that you really want. Otherwise, wait for it. Wait for it. That's the thing about card shows is sometimes you feel like you got to come away with something. At the National last year, I was there for 4 or 5 days, and I did not buy anything until the last hour I was there. I got that Cobb Colgan's chip proof. So don't be afraid to come away with nothing. We know you're great collectors, and we'll know you'll find something at the next show or the next auction. But find the card that you really, really want, and have a great time with it. And I'll be anxious to see what you guys get. Talk to you later.